Good 11 hours.
Good day, good day. It's 11 o'clock ET, and I am out of Miramar, Florida. This is Canute Exploration. I'm your host, Dr. Canute White. I must take this opportunity to welcome those persons listening on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and those of you watching on our YouTube channel, Canute's Media. Welcome. I hope that you had enjoyed your memorial holiday in the United States. It was a great day for me. I was in New York. I must tell you, I really find the architectural design of those bridges and buildings in New York very interesting. I tell you, a friend of mine suggested that perhaps persons were in competition to see who could build the highest skyscraper. I mean, those buildings, they're beautiful. I really love them. The tunnels. I enjoyed my time in Manhattan, back there in Times Square, New York City, over the Memorial Weekend. It was a great place to be. And I tell you this, the whole architectural design is fascinating. You need to go there if you have not gone there. I wonder if my guest today had gone there. We'll talk to him later about what he think about the whole design of New York City. But let me also welcome those persons listening in UK, Brazil, Ghana, United Kingdom, naturally United States, Jamaica, naturally. You know I'm Jamaican. And Miramar, let me specially welcome persons listening from Miramar, Florida. Look, this thing about passion, I'm not sure what you're passionate about, but think about your passion. Take some time and think about your passion. Perhaps that passion had developed from your childhood, but you have not harnessed that passion. Sometimes that passion can help you to gain, to achieve, if you just honest. One philosopher, I think it was Aristotle, who said that your intelligence, your intellectual prowess, is somewhere inside of you. Even your child, it's inside. But those books, the teachers, the learning process, teaching learning process brings it out, right? Harness that passion, that intellectual prowess. So, what's your passion? Our guest today, he had a passion from his childhood, age 6, and he had used that to achieve, to be successful. So today I'd like to talk about using your passion to succeed. And while you think about your personal passion, I want you to listen to our guest. He has his own passion and he will help you to harness your passion through talking about his passion and the way you can become successful through that. Tyler Foley, I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. He will tell me when I invite him into the studio. Will be our special guest this afternoon, this morning, depends on where you're listening from and when you'll be hearing this podcast. Let me welcome Tyler this time. Hey, welcome. Let me ask first. Have you ever gone to New York?
I have been to New York.
Tell me about it.
It's the best city in the world. And as you had alluded to, my passion from 6 years old was theater. And if you want to go see theater, you go to New York City. You stand in line at tickets and you get whatever cheap seat you can. And you go see a big Broadway show. Yeah, no, I've been to New York multiple times and flown in to all 3 airports. JFK, LaGuardia, I pop in and out all the time. And my wife is actually in construction. And I want to take her to New York. She's never been. We actually had a plan. It was our 10-year anniversary. Today, happy anniversary to me, Dr. White.
Anniversary from
happy anniversary to me. It is our 11-year anniversary today. Ooh. And last year for our 10-year anniversary, we actually wanted to go to New York. And unfortunately, the city and the country was shut down. So we didn't get to go do that. But yeah, no, it's my goal to actually expose her to some of the architecture there because it's phenomenal, from the Brooklyn Bridge to, just
I saw
that.
that.
Well, at Times Square, just to stand
Yeah.
in Times Square and to look at it, Central Park, the fact that that urban area has maintained its value and has been preserved for as long as it has, a designed urban space, like that is phenomenal. And as somebody who is from Canada, I can really appreciate open green spaces in
Yeah,
cities. So the fact that New
right?
York has maintained it makes me happy. So
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, hey, welcome. Welcome. Am I pronouncing your name right correctly?
you
I
got it
talked to the
perfect, my friend. Tyler Foley,
Foley, yeah. It's a very unique name though. Johan,
Irish.
well, let's talk a bit about that name. Just a little.
Yeah, no, Irish of descent. So there's a lot of Foleys and O'Foleys. Yeah, no, it's a very traditional Irish name. And actually my full name, because Tyler is what I go by. If
Yeah,
friends would call me, if you were to ask my wife who she's married to, she'd say
yeah.
my husband's name is Tyler. But my full name is Sean Tyler Foley, and
I
Sean
realize
spelled
that.
Sean,
Yeah.
the proper Gaelic way. So, we're I wish I had more identification with that heritage,
Right.
because
Yeah.
I've only been to Ireland once. My wife's
Okay.
been a few more times beyond me,
Mhm.
and I really want to go back with her. We love to travel, so travel
Cool.
is,
Yeah. It's
we've got the whole globe marked with
Yeah.
where we are. Jamaica is one of our favorite places to
I was
go.
just gonna ask you if you have ever gone to Jamaica.
Oh yeah, we've been a few times, and actually I emceed a wedding in Jamaica a few years
Cool.
ago.
Cool.
I was asked to come down and do that, so that was a fun gig to have.
Right. Right.
Getting to fly down and hang out on the island, be on island time for a little bit, and
I,
and
I, I,
enjoy my time.
I am not self-centered, but how would you sell Jamaica in a minute?
Um, if you want to be in the most relaxed, laid back state that you could ever be in, and you want to surround yourselves with the most friendly, most giving, most loving people on the planet while surrounded by the bluest, warmest, calmest waters, you can't go anywhere other than Jamaica. Come to the island, sit back, enjoy yourself, because your watch doesn't matter, your phone is lost, and I would have to say that you will have the greatest time of your life. So come down, enjoy some rum. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Don't be a stranger.
In Jamaica, right?
In
Yeah, I love
Jamaica.
Jamaica,
Yeah,
man.
man.
I love that, man. I love that. Okay. All right. Let's talk about you for a while, though. Who is Tyler Ford? Who are you?
I mean, it depends on the day. I honestly, I'm a father and husband first and foremost. I have a 5-year-old daughter and an incredible wife. She is amazing. Both of my girls in my life are incredible, and they're the reason that I do the things that I do. So first and foremost, I'm them. I'm a businessman. I'm an author, an entrepreneur, public speaker, actor, performer. I am a jack of all trades and master of none, except for this one thing, and that is speaking. I've got that gig down pretty good with 35 years experience, and beyond that, I'm just a dude hanging out, loving life. That is who Tyler Foley is.
Cool. But I've been reading a lot more as well. I mean, in addition, you smile, because you know it, right? I read something like this. You are a stuntman who became a safety professional. Tell me about that first before I move to the other.
Sure. So I started out in theater when I was 6 years old, and film and television in my late teens. And when I moved to Vancouver, I was given the opportunity to start to train with some really amazing stunt professionals. So I'm an actor who does stunts. I'm not a stunt man who
Okay.
acts. And I want to make it clear, because most people don't know the distinction. But for all the guys who are part of Stunts Canada, they're like, Tyler, come on now, stunt man. But I did take a few years and specialize in high falls. So my gig, my fun thing to do was to basically jump out of 2 to 6 story windows into a platform of cardboard boxes. It was kind of my thing that I liked to do. Got to do it a few times and make a pretty penny while I did it. And when I retired from acting at 25, because right at that point I was 20 years into the business. That's when you retire from a business. So I retired at 25 and went back to school. And when I went back to school, I got an engineering discipline and started my own company. And when you're in, what I specialized in was geomatics, so map making and surveying. And when that's your specialty, your primary client is going to be the government. And anytime you work for the government, USGS was one of my main clients. They expect that you have a safety system in place. So not only did I have to learn the discipline of surveying and map making and photogrammetry, I also then had to learn about avionics because we flew a whole bunch of planes. And then I had to learn about business and how to run a business. And I had to learn all this stuff about safety so that I could put together a safety system. Unfortunately, the business didn't go well. And I was out of that within about 2 years of starting it up, 2.5 years. And I was basically ahead of my time and out of my budget for what it was. And I had an amazing business partner who passed away, and not the right director's insurance in place, and just the business collapsed. But in all of that, I had the safety training background. And a friend of mine said, well, listen, you've done all of this training. If you take these 2 more courses, you can actually have a designation in safety. You can be a national construction safety officer, and I need one for this project that I have up north. And we'll pay you 6 figures to come up and be our safety officer if you can get this designation. I'll even pay for the courses. So I went, okay. So I took the couple of extra courses, got my designation, and then now all of a sudden I'm a safety professional. So and the funny
go ahead, sir.
What was interesting about it is what I knew from stunts actually helped me with my safety. Because the two are actually very, very closely aligned, very related. And so what I would do is I would start telling everybody about, I'd be like, look, as somebody who used to jump out of windows for a living, what you're doing is not safe. Because me jumping out of windows was safer than what you're doing right now, standing on that ladder. You are not doing it. And it gave me an interesting kind of viewpoint to be able to explain to these very, very, rugged, manly men. And I'm a 5'8", 135-pound theater major. So when you talk to some of the construction guys in northern Canada, they don't take well to guys like me telling them what to do. So I was like, look, I don't know the first thing about pulling wire. You do you. But I'm telling you right now, I used to jump out of windows, and what you're doing is not safe.
Yeah, and it's good that you can combine them, because you're right. You rightly said that they basically combine, right? Safety and not being a stuntman, but being an actor who's a stunt, who does stunt, right? So let's say that. But I want you to talk a bit about your, I call it stuntmanship, right?
Stuntmanship. Yes.
Tell me a bit about that.
Well, so it was a really, really, I can't say really enough, fun job to do. And it was nice because I was already in performance. So growing up in the theater, I'd learned stage fighting, a little bit of fencing and swordcraft for stage, nothing that I wouldn't go and compete in the Olympics, but I learned how to move on stage, take a punch, take a fall. And then when I transitioned that into film, I grew up in a very small rural area, so I did a little bit of horse wrangling and a very, very small amount of special skills riding, because there are some really good horse stuntmen. Again, I've been in the industry so long that I know people who do all of these things so much better than me. But I've always had the opportunity to come in and do a little bit of it. So a little bit of stunt riding, come in and do a little bit of stage fighting, or a little bit of sword play, a little bit of gun play. I remember doing a movie once where one of the stunt guys either didn't come or he'd gotten injured, not on the not on this film set, but
Mhm.
on another film set. I can't remember why I couldn't make it. Anyway, they were short a guy and they needed somebody to do a ratchet pull. And because I hung out with all of these guys, they're like, hey, you could do it, right? I was like, okay, let's go for a ride. And they strap you in, and there's this, it's basically this zip line that goes whoop, backwards. So you're running like this, and then all of a sudden this thing grabs you and it like pulls you back into a mat, and you go, whoa! And it was, just things like that were really fun. And they would go, well, you're a tiny, small guy. So from a scale perspective, when they push me out of a window versus a dude who's 6 feet tall, I look like I fall farther. So they're like, how comfortable are you with heights? I'm like, I'm actually remarkably comfortable with heights. What do we want to do? And then we go. And what's really funny is, so when you ask my 25-year-old self,
right,
or my 20-year-old self, are you comfortable standing at 60 feet and taking a header? And I would go, absolutely, let's do this. I would look down. It wouldn't even faze me. I wouldn't even blink. Ask my 40-year-old self that same question. I was doing a safety audit for a company a few years ago, and I had to go over a catwalk. And it was a well-constructed railing up to here, but the catwalk was 4 or 5 stories in the air. And I remember walking across this thing, looking down, going, what the hell is that? Ah! It was like far down. And I realized that I had vertigo for the first time. And I realized I might have actually developed a fear of heights because I haven't been at height for a long time. And this is like, my wife hates it because when we are in the mountains, I will climb to the top of any peak and I will be the first one to peek over and be like, hey, what's that over there? Hey, look, it's 4 miles down. And that I'm comfortable with. But because of my safety training, anything right now from like 3 to 6 stories is terrifying to me because I know that if I fall, I may not die, but I'm definitely not going to like the rest of my life because it's going to be drastically different from where it is now. And so I don't know. I think I'm more conscious of my mortality. I'm more conscious of my fallibility. I'm more conscious of the consequences. So yeah, it's interesting. I didn't have a fear of heights, but now I do.
Oh, interesting. So age actually give you some sort of a caution in what you do.
A little bit of perspective. And it doesn't help too now, right? When I was younger, I was never going to be married, right? I was going to be a bachelor for my entire life and live the movie star style life. And, now I'm married, I have a child, I have a house, I have responsibilities. And I'm like, maybe we can stay on the ground and make some money. That would be good.
I like that. Right. Nothing dangerous. Just stay on the ground. Hey, your childhood. I'd like to talk a bit about that.
And what would you like to know? Because there's so much that happened.
What you'd like to share. What you'd like to share.
Well, I mean, I could share everything from, again, 6 years old, getting into theater. A lot of people go, well, how did that happen? My father actually passed away when I was 6. And I didn't really outwardly and openly grieve that for at least 6 years. Yeah. And I think out of concern and maybe wanting an emotional outlet for me, or I'm not really sure what the rationale was, but my aunt and my uncle thought it would be good to help me pursue, because I'd done, like the small little school plays, right? Like you do the Christmas play, and I think I did an Easter play where I played Peter Rabbit. And, like you got to, I had done some kind of performance and I'd taken a shine to it, and they saw that it might be an outlet for me. Right. So they actually started, looking at, well, can he do it professionally? And we have a couple of really good professional theater companies here in Calgary. We've got a great, vibrant art scene here. Right. And so they put me into theater, and I got an agent, and got to go and play with adults. And it was a great thing as a child to do, because I got to play dress up and get paid for it for years, and just pretend and have and be exposed to different kinds of walks of lives. I'm born in the 70s, but I went to my first same-sex marriage before they were even legal. It was just a pretend ceremony thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually the first wedding that I went to. I didn't go to a heterosexual wedding until I think I was like 9 or 10. But I was at a gay wedding for, like 7 years old, and that wasn't unusual to me. And just different philosophies, different people, and to be exposed to movement too, like to be able to use your body fully has been a blessing for my entire life, because I'm only now starting to feel like maybe I shouldn't move that way. And even still I go, well, no, if I'm feeling that way, let's do some stretches, let's do some breath work, let's move in. Like I understand my body very, very well. Like I'm in tune with what I'm doing. And all of that came from theater and growing up with movement and being exposed to different thought processes too. So Western and Eastern medicine, and being able to just blend them, which was a blessing for me, because when I was 17, I actually had a medical incident that paralyzed the left side of my body. And it took almost a year to fully recover from that. And to this day, we're still not quite sure what it was, if it was a mini stroke or if it was a palsy. But I woke up New Year's Day, 1997, and the whole left side of my body did not work. My arm was numb, my leg was numb, my face drooped, and I couldn't speak. It was awful. And it was in my senior year of high school, and I had a play. I was doing a musical that was supposed to start the run in April, and this is January. I had to withdraw from the show because I couldn't. None of it worked, and but because I was familiar with both Western and Eastern medicine, I was very open to a lot of different possibilities. So we were doing everything from traditional medications and physiotherapy to laser acupuncture and traditional acupuncture. We were doing cupping. I even was doing energy healing work. And so a lot of those, I don't know how much of it was placebo effect and how much of it really worked. But bottom line, I was able to very rapidly bring the functionality of my body back and get back to a point of normalcy, especially at 17, because my whole life was laid out, right? And because you haven't experienced life, everything seems like the end of the world when stuff like that happens. So I got to do some great work on mindset, and I had great practitioners who helped me see kind of what was the vision, what did I want to get to, because if I didn't have something to strive towards, I wasn't going to get better. And so, I strongly visualized every day being on set and being a professional actor and working, and it really drove me and gave me a renewed energy, because at 17, I'd been doing that work for 11 years, and it was becoming a little bit routine, a little bit rote. I was becoming a little complacent in the work. And I remember bombing monologue once because I didn't bother memorizing it, because I thought I was just so good that I could look at it the day before and be like, yeah, no, I got this, and then didn't. Right. And that attitude had creeped in. So getting a renewed sense of energy of knowing what a gift it was for me to be doing the thing that I was doing, because most people look at the movies and go, can you imagine how cool it would be? My wife is obsessed, because as a project manager and somebody who's in construction, she sees these big movie sets and she goes, somebody had to build that. Somebody had to order the material. Somebody had to design that. So she goes and she missed her calling. Really, I want to get her into film, because she'd be fantastic at it.
Cool. My thing though, as a child, you were acting. Let me ask this: how popular were you then as a child? Let me ask that before I continue my question.
I was a pretty popular kid. And the funny thing is I kind of, I think one of the gifts that I got being an actor is the ability to take on a character. And so I find that I can socialize with a lot of people fairly easily by
Yeah,
just going, okay, what demographic am I? And then
definitely. Oh
now
yeah.
I'm going to take on that character and that vibe. And my father was a teacher, so I really pushed scholastically. So most of my friends that I surrounded myself with were very intelligent
Yeah.
and usually the top students in the class.
Right.
But where I grew up, that was never a thing to shy away from. So it wasn't like, you were a geek, right? Oh, look at you're smart, you're a geek,
Right.
or you're a
Yeah.
nerd, or
Nerd. Right.
whatever,
I know
right?
that one. Right.
Yeah, and it was kind of a thing to be proud of. Like I was proud that I was one of the top students of my school. In fact, the first time that I ever openly grieved my father's passing
Right.
was in grade 6, receiving an award for being the top student of the elementary school that I was going to. And, end of year, they have a big assembly and everybody gathers in the gymnasium and all the parents sit along the outside on the little chairs. And and they seat you by age and height, right? So the grade 6s are the big kids and they're way in the back. And, grade 1, and it's an elementary school, so 1 through 6. And I was in the back. And so when they called my name, I had to get up and walk along the edge of the gymnasium. And my mom was there and she was all happy crying, like, little tears, that's my
Yeah.
boy kind of thing. But next to her, to this day, I will never know why, but the seat next to her was empty. And we're talking a pretty full gymnasium. I'm sure there were other empty seats around, but there was just this one empty chair sitting right beside my mom. And as I walked past it, I looked at it and I was like, my dad should be sitting there.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I had that thought, I hadn't openly grieved his passing until that point. But all of a sudden I'm like, he's not here to see this award. Or maybe he is, but he's here in spirit and I will never see him. And then I was like, he will never be at my graduation from high school. He won't be at my university graduation. He won't be at my wedding. He'll never see the birth of his grandchildren.
Yeah.
And like all of this stuff at 12 years old starts flooding over me and I'm just bawling my eyes out. Everybody thinks I'm crying because I'm happy. And in reality, I'm going through this spiral of what ifs in my head, just bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
But, that was, again, I was able to get over it quickly because of performance.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, because that's the thing. When you're an actor, like you have to get into these states, right? And I'd been learning how to stage cry, for years and finding the different things. So, so I was like, so I got into the emotion. I was like, okay, well, let it happen. Because the worst thing you can do when you're emotional is try to fight it, right? You see the people and they're like, right? And then it goes on and on and on and on, right? So you got to let it just come through. So I let it wash over me and then took a couple deep breaths and smiled and made it so that for all outward appearances, I was happy crying. Got my award, my little bursary, and walked back and then chatted with my friends and then took time afterwards to kind of reflect on what it was that why I had felt the way that I did.
I want to ask this. I mean, we have a lot to talk about. What we at time? We can talk. I want to ask this. Is there a secret to acting in the sense when I said secret to acting, those stage cry thing and so on? Is there something you don't have to say, but is there something or some things that the audience just should not know how it comes about? Because realism is realism, and you want us who are looking on to think that, hey, this is real, even though you know it's acting.
Well, so the thing about really good acting is you're not acting. You're performing, but the really good actors it's reaction, it's action reaction, and you are finding realism within your performance. And there's a lot of techniques, and it depends on where you have to cry. So like how I would prep to cry on stage is entirely different than how I would do it on film or TV.
Okay.
Film or TV, because you're doing take after take after take, right? So you're jumping into a moment. Sometimes the camera's on you. Sometimes the camera's on who you're performing with. And you might do just a single scene for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. Where in theater, there's a progression. You're telling a story and the scenes don't stop and you're in, and there's, especially if you're doing a musical, then there's music that goes with it. And sometimes even just a regular stage performance, they're going to use lighting and music cues. And so it's easy to just cue off of some of that and the performer that you're performing with live.
Right.
So in that case, it's just a matter of knowing what triggers you and maybe using some emotional recall and bringing up that performance. Where in film, I've done everything from, so there's certain pieces of music that I can listen to and I'm going to cry every time. If I listen to Ragtime, at the end of Act 1, when when they kill Sarah.
Right.
Oh man, I hear that. That whole, like, even just thinking about it right now, I felt the bit go like whoo, up my spine. I can listen to that. I can put that on, and I'm mush. I'm just a big ball of Tyler mush when that song is. If I let myself get wrapped up into the emotion of it, so I'll listen to that. So I'll put it on my headphones, and then I'll start to get the cries, and then I'll take off the headphones, and the director will call action. And I'll be like, this is like this. Sometimes they'll even put like fake tears, so they'll like blow not mint, but mentholyptus. So right, like the Halls,
right?
They can get a little spray, and they've got this little applicator, and they go into your eye, and you go like this, and then they put the little fake tears, and then it gets the tears going. And once you can get the tears going, then you find the emotion, and then your eye's just going to keep watering. You can like keep it going like that. So there's lots of different things, but honestly, the really good cries come from when you aren't acting, when you're really actually wrapped up in the moment, in the performance. I know I did. I filmed a scene a year and a half ago where I played it was a true crime reenactment.
Okay.
And the guy was unfortunately very mentally unstable, and he ended up killing his wife and his infant son. And he smothered the son with a pillow, and I had to do the reenactment of that. It felt icky. Like, I didn't like it, but it felt icky. So that was good. But those tears were real, because the whole time I'm thinking, I can't imagine actually doing this to my daughter.
Right. Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's a real performance. Like, you're there, and you want to do it. So that it really depends on the scenario. But the really good performances come from when you can actually embody where you're at and get lost in the performance in the scene.
So therefore, since you have said that, there can be stressful moments in acting, because that should stress you out. While you're working, really, you're acting, but you're stressed because you have to be doing this. Acting.
Yeah, and that one, there's a lot of different stresses that come with it. So sometimes you're not getting the performance right, and whether it's a little bit more stressful on film. With theater, right, if you're not getting it right or whatever, we just call a break, take 10 minutes, everybody resets, and everything's fine. The problem with film and TV is you're on a timeline. You're on a very tight schedule, and they've got everything plotted out for the day. And for every minute that people are on there, you're burning money. Like, nothing on a film set doesn't cost money. The people cost money, the equipment costs money, the film, whether it's digital or not, costs money. Everything just costs money. Yeah. And so when you're not getting it right, you're like, man, I gotta hit this, and that can be stressful. Or if you're in a scene that is really uncomfortable but is needed, like the one that I did, it can really stick with you for a little bit. So that's one of those times where you got to be thankful. You got to be like, this is just pretend.
Right.
I feel like I'm counseling my daughter if we've gone to a movie that was maybe just a little too scary for her, because she's only 5 years old, right? And even G-rated movies, like she gets terrified by Cruella de Vil watching 101 Dalmatians. And I don't blame her. Cruella is a scary looking character. She's like, Daddy, I don't like this, right? And you got to be, it's just pretend. They're
Right.
just cartoons.
Yeah.
And so when I was done that scene, I had to be like, okay, because and the other thing is too, we were working with a real child, but then for the scene,
Okay.
We substituted a doll. So I had to be like, it's just a doll. It's just a doll. I couldn't actually hurt it, but I definitely didn't sleep well that night.
Hey, Tyler, but before I go into some more things, I'm going to be asking you about some of the movies, some of the acting that you have done, you know, some of those things. But let me take this opportunity, and I'm Canute White, Dr. Canute White. This is Canute's Exploration, your topic in the podcast. Let me take this opportunity to just greet persons at the Miami Media School. I went to that school to do radio and broadcasting, right? It's a great school, right? It's a part of the Billionaire family, right? In Chicago and other places. Miami Media School, you know, just greeting you guys down there. Look, tell us some of the movies that you have been in, some of the acting scenes that you have done. Just naming them, you know, and perhaps
so Freddy Vs Jason, the remake of Carrie on TV, the TV version of it, because right around the time we were doing it, they ended up doing a theatrical version of it too. So the made-for-TV one with Angela Bettis. Door to Door is my favorite project that I've ever done, and if anybody gets a chance, check that out. But those are usually the big three that people recognize. Scary Movie 3, I was in. I can't even remember all the stuff that I've done. Most recently, the last couple were Sex, Lies, and Murder. I did 2 episodes of those. Those were the real crime ones. So I my resume is 35 years long now. I can't even remember, but those are the big highlights. Door to Door, Freddy vs. Jason, the remake of Carrie, Scary Movie 3. Those are the good ones. Those are the ones that I enjoyed the most.
Okay. Scary movies, a lot of scary movies. Hey.
Well, Scary Movie 3 is a comedy. Scary Movie 3 is a comedy.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's the Wayans brothers. Wayans brothers started that franchise with the first Scary Movie, which was poking fun at all of the scary movies. So Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer and all of those ones. And they were funny. I loved working with the Wayans brothers. They were great. But on that film, I was just a photo double and stand-in, so I'm not credited in it.
Okay, that's
and but when they got the franchise by the time we got to the third movie, I don't think the Wayans brothers were actually involved in it so much as just executive producers of the intellectual property. But then I got to play frat boy number 1, and that was fun. Just a single day scene, but it was the first time I'd ever gotten above scale. So scale is like the set standard rate. It's the minimum that you can pay an actor. And Scary Movie 3, I got triple scale to come and do this. So, and I didn't even have lines. I was frat boy number 1. I ended up puking while an alien did a keg stand. And anybody who's seen the movie will know exactly what I'm talking about. But it was a nothing show. I might as well have been an extra, but I got paid 3 times scale as a principal performer, which is unheard of for what I did. It was ridiculous. Anybody who's in the arts right now knows exactly what I'm talking about. So they're like, what? You got what? Yeah, I had a good agent. Really good agent. And I don't know why.
This is Canute Exploration. I'm Dr. Canute White. I'm sitting in with Tyler Foley. I just want to know I get that right, you know. Whenever I don't get it right, you tell me.
Every time. You've got it perfect, my friend.
All right, Foley. I'm going to talk about your books, though. There is something about you. Well, a speaker, number 1 best-selling author. Talk to us about that.
So, yeah, the last few years, I have really pivoted out of safety. So a lot of the clients that I had where I was working with, they'd be like, oh, you present really well. Would you come and do a keynote presentation? And I'd say, sure, why not? The first time somebody asked, I didn't even know what a keynote was. I just said yes and then figured it out, which is what I tend to do quite often.
Let me break you a bit. You know, remember what you're going to say. What Tyler just said, audience, is that I said yes, then figure it out later. That's a good trait to have. just say yes, and then you think about how you're gonna do it next. Okay, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, and it's true. I've lived my life with it, and that came from theater too, right? So as theater sports, we do a thing called yes and. So
Okay.
I've always learned to just yes, and then we figure it out. But what had happened was these people would ask me to come and do these presentations, and inevitably somebody would come to me and say, "How do you do that?" And what they were asking was, "How can I take the stage and kind of be engaging, be energetic, and just kind of run with it?" You know, most people, 77% of Americans claim to have a fear of public speaking.
Right. Yeah.
I challenge that because I don't think it's true. I
Okay.
think they have a fear of public speaking, but they don't. But
Mhm.
what ended up happening was I would kind of give the same answers over and over again. And then I decided I'd make a couple of training courses, right? So a couple of things for people to come in and learn the stagecraft of public speaking. Because really that's what it is. It's stagecraft. It's having a presence. It's creating
Right.
a character. It's creating engagement and moments and time for your audience to feel what you want them to feel.
Mhm.
And so I would do these training things, but it was hard because I can only do so many and I'm one person.
Mhm.
And so a friend of mine said, "Well, why don't you write a book?" And I went, I don't have time to write a book. And they said, "Well, then why don't you take your training stuff and we'll transcribe it and we'll put that
Yeah.
into a book."
Mhm.
And that's exactly what we did. So we took all of these, we've recorded a whole bunch of my lessons and my workshops, and we took all of the text and everything that we had done from that transcription and compiled it into the book. And now I
Okay.
have this got
Yeah.
the initial in May of 2019, so it's just over 2 years old now, and it became so popular that it actually got picked up by a publisher. So now Morgan James is releasing it in September worldwide in bookstores, because previously you could only get it online through me.
Right.
And now it's actually out. It's going to be published and in stores September 9th or September 7th. So that's been exciting because now I have a bigger reach and I can help people to get confidence and communicate more effectively, get over the stage fright, and find their power within themselves to really effectively tell their story is really what we do.
Okay. There is this other book that I'm seeing. The method. Yeah.
Yes.
Talk to us about that, folks.
So the method, for anybody who goes to our website, SeanTylerFoley.com, we have a free download for any of your viewers, any of your listeners. If
Right.
they want to come and grab that, it's an 11-page digital document that has 5 insider secrets from 35 years of public speaking, kind of compressed into a very easy to digest, very actionable method for you to be more confident public speaking, to be able to take the stage and be a little bit more engaging, a little bit more authentic. And so I compiled that as just a free gift for anybody who is curious about getting over their fear of public speaking. And it's not necessarily designed for the people who want to be the next Tony Robbins or, the next Oprah Winfrey or, even any of the presidents that come and give keynote speeches. If you want to do that, this will have some tips to you. But this is really designed for the person who is maybe afraid to stand up in the boardroom and take on a presentation, and she really wants to, maybe further herself in her career, or she has this entrepreneurial dream, but she's having a hard time doing the pitches or doing the networking. That's what both the Power to Speak Naked and the method is really designed for. It's to give everyday people the confidence to come up and do what they're doing so that they can have a platform and express themselves.
Right. I will be having a next segment with you later on. I have some other questions to ask, but I'll be having a segment with you later on that I call On Biz Exposed today. Just exposing your business. I really give that as a gift to my guest, right? But usually I'll charge for that because it's a marketing section. But we'll talk more about your business buy-in, I guess. That's the name. Yeah, we'll talk.
Total buy-in.
Right, we'll talk about that later, right? Or why, where, what, and when, and so on. But let me ask you though, Tyler, about let me ask you How do you get over stage fright? Let me talk a bit about that.
So the first thing to recognize is that most people actually aren't afraid of public speaking. Stage fright itself is a real thing. I will acknowledge that. I've distinctly had stage fright twice in my life, and I will never forget the feeling. So I was lucky because at 6 years old, you have no fear. And so when I started on stage, it was a fun thing to do. It was exciting for me, and I looked forward to it. When I was 12 years old, it was the first time I allowed my head and my own internal thoughts to get in the way of a performance. I was at a Remembrance Day ceremony, and I was supposed to deliver a poem. And I remember them wheeling this veteran in, and he was highly decorated, and he looked old and grizzled, and he had these piercing blue eyes that looked at me like, "What are you going to tell me, kid?" And I remember seeing this gentleman who probably didn't really actually look at me that way, but in my head, that was the story that I was telling. And when I went to stand up and deliver the play, whew, it was gone out of my head, or the poem. And this is a poem that I had been delivering for 4 or 5 years, so I had it memorized and I knew it. And it was just one of those things where I should have been able to do it, but I allowed this fear of judgment to get in. And I realized later on, looking back on the few times that I've had stage fright, what caused the stage fright. And it wasn't that I'm afraid of public speaking. Obviously, I'm not. Right. And anybody who goes, no, but I really am afraid of public speaking, I say, no, you're not. And I would challenge this. I want your audience right now just to, in their head, if you think that you're afraid of public speaking, wherever you are right now, just nod your head so that you know that we are all in agreement that you think that you're afraid of public speaking. So you're nodding your head. And so for those of you who are nodding your head, I want you to keep nodding. And I want you to then think of the last time you were at a restaurant and you ordered food. When was the last time you did that? Were you nervous doing that? Were you uncomfortable doing that? Or did you just go in and order your food? Because if you were able to go into a restaurant and order your food, you were speaking in public. And a lot of people will say, well, yeah, but it's different because when I do the public speaking, I'm speaking to strangers and I don't know them. So then I would further challenge you, did you actually know your wait staff when you placed that order? Because if you didn't know your wait staff, you were talking to a stranger in public, which is public speaking to strangers. The difference was when you ordered your food, you weren't worried about your waiter or waitress judging you for your order. Which ironically is funny because as somebody who knows a lot of people in the wait and service industry, and somebody who's briefly dabbled in it myself, we judge you for your order. So there is judgment there when people are like, you can order that. I wouldn't have ordered that, but you can order that. And we'll smile and take your order and be right back. Do you want some more water, coffee? And we're off and doing our thing. But people, when they're told that you have to do a presentation, start to get in their head and they start going, oh, well, what if and what if and what if? And they what if themselves into this total panic that is entirely made up in their head. So the quickest way to get over stage fright is to recognize that you're not afraid of public speaking. You're actually afraid of public judgment. And the quickest way to dissolve that fear is to recognize that the audience is not actually judging you. The audience is on your side. And again, I always hear the pushback. I can hear it. I can hear it through the radio waves, through the internets, through the interwebs. I can hear your audience pushing back. No. The audience would judge me because you don't know. You don't know, Tyler. They're judging me. And I would challenge them to think, when was the last time you were at a presentation? Whether that was in a boardroom or in an auditorium, you saw a keynote presentation, or it was just your boss or a peer or a colleague delivering information. When you got into that boardroom, did you think to yourself, man, I hope this sucks. I hope this person doesn't know what they're talking about and I get absolutely no value out of this. I really hope that this goes south and that they forget everything that they're talking about. I hope that, all of the things that we think in our head.
Right.
Do you think that about the person who's going to present? No. You go in there and you're like, at best, you are indifferent to the information. You're like, okay, well, we'll get through this, and then I've got a meeting at 1:30, and I've got 2 more appointments after that. And you're thinking about you. You're not thinking about the other person, and the majority of us do that. And so, if you want to get over the fear of public speaking, the first thing is to recognize that your audience is on your side, At the very least, they're neutral. Almost no one ever goes to any form of presentation with the idea that they're going to judge somebody right off. That this better not be good.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
Yeah.
So you, as a speaker, need to take the power back. Quit giving your power away. You're giving your power away by having all of this internal dialogue that isn't true.
Yeah.
What is true is that you, if you were asked to present some form of information, you are the authority at that time. You know more about that subject matter than anybody else, whatever it is. And if that wasn't the case, they wouldn't have asked you to do it.
Yeah.
So take the power back. Embrace your authority. The other thing is, too, when it comes to public speaking and audience engagement, if you're doing a monologue, like I am right now,
Right.
and you're just speaking, audience engagement is about 78%. If you have a dialogue where you include people in on the conversation, the engagement actually goes up to 92%. Why do you care about that 14%? Because think about it. Your audience is going to be more engaged and you get to talk less.
Right.
It's a win-win scenario. So if you are somebody who is afraid of public speaking, give one of the best performances of your life by not having to speak. It seems counterintuitive, but your job as a presenter is to present information. And if you were asked to do it, you are the authority. So you know more about that information than anybody else. All you have to do is guide the conversation in the room so that everybody is now in line with the information that you needed to present.
Okay.
And the best way to do that is to just ask questions. So, Dr. White, did that make sense? How do you feel about what I just said?
Okay. Interesting. So Tyler, where this stage frighting comes from? How does this concept materialize?
So it comes from that fear of judgment. Stage fright, we've mislabeled a fear, a phobia, as this thing. We call it stage fright, or we call it a fear of public speaking. And it's not. What it is a fear of public judgment. And because we've been mislabeling it so long, we can't diagnose this. You as a doctor would understand this perfectly well. If I called heartburn a heart attack, and we start trying to diagnose my heart attack, or worse, we start calling my heart attack heartburn, and all we're doing is trying to treat the heartburn, now I'm going into cardiac arrest and we're still pumping Pepto-Bismol down my stomach.
Right.
That isn't going to solve the issue. I've been misdiagnosed. With public speaking, that's the same thing. Okay. We've been saying we're afraid of public speaking. We're afraid of public speaking. And yet we go out and public speak all day long. The key to getting over stage fright is recognizing that stage fright is actually a fear of public judgment. And as soon as you can allow yourself the freedom to say, usually what it is we're afraid to say the thing that needs to be said. There's a thing that we're holding on to, or we lack the self-confidence. We lack the internal belief that our words matter. And as soon as you can say, what I have to say is important, and I'm here for a reason, and you can get into that mindset that you need to be giving this information, now all of a sudden the stage fright just melts away. It doesn't exist. It can't exist because you're no longer worried about the judgment. And one of the things that I've done for years, like I can't please everyone. Not every performance that I've been is Golden Globe or Oscar or Tony award winning. In fact, none of my performances are. I have won 0 awards in my life, 35 years of acting, no recognition. And it's okay. Yeah. I don't need to be recognized. I don't need to be the best. I just need to be me.
Yeah.
Me was a sustainable working actor for over 20 years.
Cool.
And all you need to do, and all anybody needs to do, is show up and be their best. I always recommend everybody read The 4 Agreements, the book, The 4 Agreements, right? Be impeccable with your word, always do your best, never make assumptions, and you don't judge. And that, like, it's such a simple concept, but when you can embrace that, particularly the never make assumptions and always do your best when it comes to public speaking, don't assume that you know what your audience is, and do your best, and that's all that matters. You can only control you. And so to get over this fear of public speaking, the fastest thing to do is to get out of your head, stop telling the false narrative that everybody is judging you, and recognize that you don't judge everybody. So why would they be judging you? You are the authority. Somebody asked you, or you, even better, if you're somebody like me, I put on my own shows. So
Right.
who gave me the authority? I did.
Right.
So nobody can take that away.
Definitely.
So to get over this fear of public speaking, which is actually a fear of public judgment, you need to do the internal work to recognize that you are the authority, that what you have to say matters. And if you rip off the Band-Aid and say the thing that you're afraid to say up front, then it's the greatest, most freeing thing that you can do, because now you know who on your audience is on your side, and you just focus on those people. You don't need to make everybody happy. Nobody can. So stop trying. Right. Focus on the people who matter, the people who are resonating with your message, the people who are on board with you, and just talk to them.
I like you talk about the message, right? Because I want you to define story in the context of presentation, and basically tell us what the power of story is, the power of storytelling is.
We have been communicating as human beings for thousands of years through story, right? You look at if we didn't have story, so much of our history would not have been presented, because for thousands of years, it's only recently that the majority of the world population was literate. The majority of people couldn't read 200 to 300 years ago. It was a unique skill and trait. And yet we know so much about history. How? Because some people did document it, but they were documenting through storytelling. And we as a human race need to communicate to each other through story. That's how we do it best. That's how we do it effectively. Because when we just give statistics, and this is the reason why you should do it, nobody gets on board. But as soon as I start telling you the story, never judge a person until you've walked a mile in their shoes. Yeah. Well, I can't actually come down to you, Dr. White, and put on your shoes. I'm a size 7. You're what? Size 12, 13?
And I will tell you that. 10.
10, right? I can't walk in your shoes.
Okay.
But if you tell me your story, you tell me about going to New York and being mesmerized by the architecture that you saw, I go, yes, I've been to New York. I love it. And I want my wife to see that. See, as soon as you told your story, I could see it through your eyes. Now, it helps that I've been to New York. But if I haven't been to New York, and you go, I've been to New York and I've seen this most amazing architecture, I go, I want to go to New York and see this architecture, because you've told me a story and why it was important to you. And if you expand on that story, it allows me to see the world through your eyes. If I can see the world through your eyes, I can have understanding of why you have a viewpoint that you do. I can have empathy and sympathy for why your viewpoint has formed that way. I can understand your world, and I can start to be sympathetic. I don't even have to agree with your viewpoint, but at least at that point, I have understanding of why you have that viewpoint. And I would say that in this day and age, at this time in our history as human beings on this planet, the power of story is more important than it ever before, because it's when people start to share these things. When they say, you know what, enough is enough. Why is this affecting me? This is why this is affecting me. This is what I, as a human experiencing this, go through in my day-to-day life.
Right.
And when you tell me your story, I can understand. If you just tell me the stats, I go, okay, I don't get it. They're just numbers.
Right.
I don't care. But if you can open up, particularly if you can be honest, I don't know if it would have made the news down where you are, but here in Canada, this past week, we had a just horrific policy in Canada for a long while called the Residential School Act. And what it was, we would take Indigenous children away from their parents and basically try to make them white. Oh. It's a horrific genocide of a culture. And on top of that, there was always stories of abuse and neglect that came from these schools because they were basically boarding schools, forced boarding houses.
Mm-hmm.
And in this last week, at a school in Kelowna, which is a city in British Columbia here in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
they found a mass grave with 215 children's bodies in it. And that has been a wake-up call to this nation. Because you have all of these people who've been saying, see, we told you, we told you, we told you, we told you. But nobody was listening. Mm-hmm. And now that we're hearing the stories of some of the survivors, now we're having a conversation. This has been the wake-up call that this country needed. And I hope it keeps going. Because looking the way that I look, have some definite privileges that I don't understand. It's not that I don't want to. It's that I can't understand because I get to walk through the world looking and being like this. But to be able to hear some of the stories, now I can walk a mile in someone else's shoes and I can go, that is horrific. That shouldn't be the way that it is. Why is it that way? And now I'm fired up. And I have an entire country behind me going, why is this a thing? And it's because of the power of story. The stories are coming out. The statistics, 215 dead children in a mass grave. That's horrible. But when you hear, I survived, or what's worse, they were talking to a gentleman who was like, I'm pretty sure I know who one of those kids is because I remember my friend and he was here one day and gone the next. And I know he's one of those 215.
Right. Interestingly, though, you have said something about the power of story and something that had gone that actually happened in Canada, and you are saying, "Hey, this really happening." But the president of the United States was in Tulsa, Oklahoma yesterday, and it was this place that they call the Black Wall Street. There was an incident where a number of black people were killed, and it's just not in the American history book. We have never heard about it.
and that's the point. You have these things that nobody's heard about because people are afraid to tell the story. And make no mistake, there are some very real reasons for some people to be afraid to tell their story.
No.
But it's when you stand up and you say, no, you know what? I'm not going to let fear stop me from speaking the truth or speaking my point of view and saying what's on my mind. And it doesn't have to be these atrocious acts of heinousness to humanity. Sometimes it can be a personal thing where, like, I oftentimes don't brag about my accomplishments. I always forget half of the stuff that I've done because nobody wants to know that. And then I come on these shows and you guys are like, well, what were you on? What did you do? And I go, oh, well, I did this. And then I walk away afterwards, having had an opportunity for somebody who was genuinely interested in my story to brag. And I feel so much better. I feel like I could go and take on the world. So it doesn't have to be these dark, mean things. But I think when we're afraid to say something, we need to ask ourselves, why? Why are you afraid to say this thing? Because probably it's the thing that the world needs to hear. The world needs to hear about Black Wall Street. The world needs to hear about the Residential School Act.
Right.
The world needs to hear about all of these things. But we also need to hear about the joy. So we can't repress that either. I need to learn the stories. I need to learn about the Jamaican doctor who traveled to New York and was mesmerized by the tall buildings and the Brooklyn Street Bridge. I need that. I need that in my life.
And that's exciting to me, right? You're the excitement in my tone when I talked about it. But look, if my story is not hypothetical, if my story is not exciting, how compelling could that be? Is it that the listener would be, okay, that's not compelling because I'm not excited by it, so I'm not expressing myself in a truthful, compelling way, so to speak?
So, first of all, your story is exciting.
Okay.
Everybody's story is exciting. Like, I just I know very little about you,
Right.
Dr. White.
Mm-hmm.
Very little, right? Because we've had a couple of conversations
Right.
offline,
Yeah.
and we've had this conversation now.
Mhm.
But I already know that you have an incredible, incredible story. You've lived a great life. You're doctor,
Right.
Jamaican, traveler, all
Cool.
of these things. I'm already
You've
interested. You've
learned
already
some
got me
things.
hooked,
All right.
right? So I want to know more. I want to know. I want to
Mhm.
know more, and that's the great thing about the platform that you have is people who tune in regularly.
Right.
And just as a quick aside, too,
Mhm.
if you are somebody who listens to Canute and you listen to Dr. White and what he's doing on a weekly basis, and you are on board with these recordings,
Right.
stop right now. Stop what you're doing. I realize that we're live streaming too, but down in the links or where, however you're listening to this platform right now, whatever you're doing, give it a 5-star rating, because what Dr. White is doing is not easy. I get the easy thing. I just get to come on, be me, tell a story, and go away, and I don't have to do it. But I mean, he's got to arrange guests. Look at all the visual that he does. Look at the effort, the production level that has gone into keeping you entertained. So if you could do me a favor and give him a 5-star review, if you're following his journey, if you're listening, if you're enjoying the content that he's providing, if you could just stop right now, give him a 5-star review, and then come back to the conversation that we're having. 5-star review, and I'll keep going. Okay. So what everybody's story matters. It's just how we tell it. I could tell my story very boring, right?
Mhm.
I was an actor. I did some stuff. I'm into safety now, and I wrote a book about it.
Mhm.
Nobody cares. But if you take them on the journey, and one of the keys to telling a really compelling story is if you look at Joseph Campbell's model. So Joseph Campbell studied the hero's journey, which was how myth and storytelling really evolved and what the commonalities of it are. And there's a very common structure from Star Wars to Harry Potter to you name it. If you've got a really compelling story, something that engages an audience, is loved and liked and retold, it follows the same pattern. And the problem is when people try to tell their story, they're trying to put themselves in the position of the hero. You know, I did this, 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 I did this. And it's very egocentric. And subsequently, what did I say at the very beginning, right? Our audience only cares about themselves. So the audience doesn't care about you. The audience cares about what you can do for them. So if you want to tell a compelling story, the hero's model is broken into essentially seven basic models. You can go further up, but essentially you have a hero who is unaware. They don't know what they don't know. And then all of a sudden they're put into a state of crisis. Some event triggers a need to know, but they know what they don't know, but they need to learn. Then they meet a sage or a mentor who then guides them on a series of trials and tribulations until they meet their arch nemesis at the very end and then overcome and then return home. Mm-hmm. That is a typical story arc. Where people get storytelling wrong is that they try to be the hero. I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. Mm-hmm. If you insert yourself into the role of the sage or the mentor, that third step, and you talk to your audience because they are the heroes and say, if you are unaware at this point, or now you've become aware, you know, you've had this thing, you're struggling to lose weight, you're struggling with romantic relationships, you're struggling with public speaking. What is your struggle? What are you're struggling with getting your business off the ground. Well, I was there, right? And then you become, in the Star Wars analogy, Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? You're not Luke Skywalker, you're Obi-Wan. You're going to train Luke on how to become a Jedi. Mm-hmm. And if you tell the story that way through the eyes of the sage and the mentor, so that you're bringing your audience along because they are the heroes, and if you can insert them as the heroes of the story, that's when they're engaged. That's when they feel that they are included in it. That's also when you can ask questions and do that, get that 92% engagement. How do you feel about this? Tell me about a time when you struggled with this. What did you learn? What did you wish you could have known? And then as somebody who's gone through it and understands, now you can guide, well, when I did this, when I was in that situation, I did this. And so now if you do blah, 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 like I did when I did this, You will, and right, it's using the you, making your audience the hero,
Okay.
and that's how you tell a powerful and engaging
Yeah.
story.
So you connect with your audience, and
You
and
connect.
and as we say that, how do you discover your audience? This discover, I think you have touched on that a bit, but let's be more specific on that. Discover
So
your audience.
what I was alluding to at the beginning there
Right.
is your ideal audience is probably you 5 or 10 years ago.
Mhm.
What were you struggling with in the past? What lessons did you need to learn? What obstacles did you need to overcome? What
Okay.
help did you get? Like, it doesn't only have to be the bad. What were the good things that were available to you that if other people knew about these good things, that they could have the same kind of impact,
Okay.
right? What is the system? What is the method? What have you created? What have you learned? And now you pass that information on. So your ideal audience is probably you 5 to 10 years ago, and you just tell them what you've learned now. You become the sage and the mentor to the hero, and you make them the hero, and you bring them along your journey. The other way that you can discover, because if you're somebody who's like, well, you know, I'm 21 years old, I haven't even lived my life yet. I couldn't even begin to talk to my 15-year-old, let alone my 11-year-old self, Tyler. That isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Who comes to you the most for advice,
Mm.
and what advice do you give? Right? Like for somebody who's still in high school, maybe it's always your parents coming to you for tech advice on how to use their phone.
Yeah.
I don't know how to use this thing.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe you need to start marketing to parents
Mhm.
who don't know how to use technology, and start just giving simple classes on how you set up your phone, or how you get the computer working, or how you set up Skype so that, or now Zoom, so that people can actually talk and communicate in this days and age. That is your expertise. That's who is coming to you. If you're somebody like me, my big demographic are female entrepreneurs and charity directors, usually about 35 to 55, with a very social driven mission.
Mhm.
So whether they are somebody whose storefront or product is designed with a charitable aspect, or if it's just a straight out charity, they're usually female run, female driven, and usually are female centric in that they are helping women who need help.
Mhm. Okay.
That resonates with me because when my father passed away, you know, it was my mom, my sister, and me. And I've seen what a village can do when they come together and they rally around somebody, and when somebody receives the support that they need, all the good that can come of it. I am living testament of what supporting a single mother can do, because I would like to think that I'm a well-adjusted human being, and a lot of that came because my mother's an incredible human being, but she had amazing support from amazing people. And so I love to work with those, but those tend to be the people who come to me and ask, how do you do what you do?
Yeah.
And I want to empower that female voice, particularly when they're doing something far more impactful than what I'm doing. I can teach people how to tell their story, but if you can tell your story and actually have a positive impact in the world, well, now I've helped have impact, and that's what drives me forward.
Mhm.
So my avatar was these 35 to 55 female entrepreneurs or socially conscious charitable organizations who were doing incredible things in the world, but had a hard time explaining what it was that they do or why they're doing it, so that they couldn't get donors, or worse, couldn't find the people who needed their help because the people just didn't know that the help was available. And so I would work with them. So they would come and they would ask, how do you do what you do?
Right.
And that's where I really started to find my niche. So I have two avatars. I have me 5 to 10 years ago. So people who want to be public speakers.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's one lane. I've got that one nailed down. Usually male, 35 to 50, who just want to get out and do it, right?
Okay.
And then I have my other avatar, which is the female entrepreneur, the charity director, who is struggling saying her message and connecting her story with why the work matters. And when we connect those two, their impact skyrockets, and it brings such joy to my life to see it happen when it does.
Right. And we talk about discovering the audience, and you talk about why. Discovering my why. How do we discover our whys?
So what drives us, right? There's 1,000 methods to do this. The one that I like, I call the McKenzie principle.
Okay.
McKenzie is my 5-year-old daughter.
Okay.
And anybody who's had children between 3 and 5, you know that all they do all day long is ask you why. Yeah. And if you ask when do they quit, the answer is never. They will constantly ask why until their curiosity is satiated. And if you are trying to figure out why it is that you do the things that you do, you have to take on the curiosity of a 5-year-old and start asking why. Why am I so passionate about public speaking? Well, because it's the one thing that I do well. Why is it the one thing that I do well? Well, I've been doing it for 35 years. Why have I been doing it for 35 years? Well, because I got into stage at 6 years old. Why did you get into stage at 6 years old? Well, because my father passed away. Okay, but why did that matter? Well, because I didn't outwardly grieve. I was emotionally detached, and my mom wanted to make sure that I grew up well. Well, why did that matter? Because my mom loves me, right? And so when I really do the deep root cause analysis, which I learned from safety, see how it all ties in. When I do the deep dive, the root cause analysis, really what drives me forward is I received incredible love and support and nurturing from my mom, who, despite all of the circumstances in the world, really what could have been mounted against her, managed to provide me with everything that I could ever possibly need. And now that I'm married with a daughter, my book is dedicated to her. You know, I want to make sure that she grows up in a world where her voice is heard. The dedication says, may you always have the courage to speak up for what you believe in and the confidence that your voice will be heard. And I mean those words. And I mean it not just to my daughter, but to all the daughters of the world.
Yeah.
That we have such a powerful ability to make the world better if we just share our thoughts and our feelings and our real feelings. Where do they come from? Why are they there?
Yeah.
And I don't have to agree with your feelings, but I need to know where they come from. So you need to know what your why is. You need to know the real deep-rooted cause of it so that you can tell me a compelling story so that I can understand and I can empathize with it. So the quickest way to discover your why is to start asking why. And don't be satisfied until you've driven that rabbit hole like a 5-year-old to the bottom of that well. And you actually reach the bottom and know why you are doing the thing that you are doing.
Yeah, you're listening to Canute Exploration. I'm Dr. Canute White, your host. So I'm sitting in with Tyler Foley. The why it's important. Canute Exploration wants to empower you, want to inspire you, want to ensure that you live a fulfilled life and basically reach your potential as much as possible. Self-actualization. It was said that 5% of persons actually achieve self-actualization. But we want you to be self-actualized. We want you to go up there, make it 20, 40% of the population soon, right? So that's what we do here. Tyler, tell me, engaging and re-engaging, if there's such a thing as disengaging during the process, right? Your audience, talk to me about that.
Well, and you can see it. I've definitely been giving presentations where people tune out. And the key to that, there's a lot of really fast tips and tricks. So I'm just going to rapid fire them out.
Okay.
If you want to engage your audience, do it by engaging your audience. Speak with them, not to them.
Okay.
Ask them questions. Have them ask questions amongst themselves. So if you've noticed that your audience is starting to lose it, you probably need to change gears. And if you change gears like, it becomes this hard, abrupt thing. You hear the gears grind and nobody likes it. So one of the tricks that I use is if I see that the audience is starting to drift, I will say, okay, turn to a partner or get into a group and talk about what your biggest takeaway was in the last section or the last 10 minutes or whatever, right? And you give them a little bit of guidance and then you have them share amongst themselves. What that does is that gets their brain re-engaged, reactivated, and they start chatting amongst themselves and reiterating the material that you've already provided. And what that does is everybody will have a different takeaway. So it reinforces each individual person's takeaway. You then don't have to reiterate or reinforce or take up time covering or recovering material. You just have them talk amongst themselves. And then if you want to do Super Pro Star, you go and you get a drink of water and you allow yourself to reset. So that's why you've given them 2 or 3 minutes to share amongst themselves, because now they are focused on each other. They're not focused on you. So you can kind of drift away and then come back in ready to do it. And we say, hey, welcome back. Okay. Could anybody who feels comfortable sharing, tell me what one of the takeaways from your group was? Now the whole group is engaged.
Right.
Everybody, you get 1 or 2 or 3 takeaways, and then you move on. That's giving you a chance. And by getting the feedback, now as a presenter, what information was actually landing. So now if there was an important bit of information that wasn't covered that you need to get to, now you can pivot onto that and focus on it. Or if you realize that this audience is resonating with a certain topic or theme, now you pivot on to this. And now, okay, well, it seems like everybody is really focused on this one thing. So why don't we do a little bit more of a deep dive? What would anybody else like to know about that? Again, you engage your audience. You ask them the question and have them help lead your talk. Remember, you're the subject matter expert.
Right.
So you should be able to talk about forever. Like, you want to get me on a show on talking about public speaking. Right. I run a 5-day workshop and a 2.5-day seminar, and all we talk about is talking. So I can talk to people about how to talk to people for a very, very long time.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I don't care where the questions go. I can guide that conversation, and I can come back to the material that I need to as we do.
Right, definitely. I must clear this up though. I am a PhD, not a medical doctor. That's all right, right? So
you know what? So let me tell you a story. When I had my stroke, I was so blessed. One of my best friends, Vanda Corbett, who is now Dr. Vanda Corbett, right. DOC, Doctor of Chiropractic. Her parents are both doctors of chiropractic.
Right.
So they're DOC, and DOC, Doctor. Vanda's older brother, who is one of my dearest and most treasured friends, I was a groomsman in his wedding, is also Dr. Corbett. So there are 4 Dr. Corbetts, but Dr. Jason Corbett is a doctor of law.
You know what I'm saying?
PhD.
I get that very often.
But doctor, PhDs count. You had to go through a lot of schooling.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
Do I get to call you doctor?
3 degrees, 2 masters, 1 bachelor's, and the doctorate. So a lot of schooling.
So if you've invested that amount of time, you don't need to be a medical doctor. I still get to refer to you as doctor. Right. I call Jason, my lawyer, doctor.
Right.
I phone him up, like, Dr. Corbett, I need you to look over this for me. And he goes, okay.
Yeah,
he's still doctor.
Definitely. Yeah. But why I'm saying that though, Tyler, because I'm in academia as well. I lecture. And what you have said about engaging and re-engaging the disengaged audience, it happens in the classroom. It happens in the classroom. So some of the procedure that you have talked about, I happen to use that in the classroom at the university level. So, yeah.
Well, and that's, it happens everywhere. And that's my point. Public speaking is not just you on stage, right? Teachers do it. Lecturers do it. In the boardroom, you were asked to present last week's or last quarter's or last year's sales data, or, presenting a budget. My wife is a project manager. She has to public speak on a daily basis because she's constantly in trade meetings, right? Public speaking is not just Tony Robbins showing up with a 30-foot projection screen behind him and getting a crowd riled up, right? It is everyday interactions. And if we want to get really good at it so that we don't have the audience glazed over, so that ours is a presentation that people actually look forward to coming, there's some very simple tricks and tips that you can use to make it a little bit better. And one, as you had pointed out and I had mentioned, ask your audience question, let them guide and direct.
Yeah, definitely. Networking, that's critical. I believe in networking, and I tell you this is what we're doing now, because I will always remember Tyler, right? There may be times when I need to take up my phone and say, Tyler, I need your assistance with this. I need you to be at a presentation, to do this. Networking. You may call, hey, Dr. White, I need. Networking is very critical. How can I do this better? How can we do this better?
So you just touched on it so beautifully. Networking is not about going out and getting clients. I think a lot of people go into these networking events with the mistaken understanding that this is a place where I'm going to find business. I'm going to find business. Like somehow you're prospecting like a gold miner. And if you just shovel enough dirt, you're going to find the nugget. Shovel enough dirt, you're going to find the nugget. If I just sluice this through. And the problem is going through, you're throwing away valuable minerals by looking just for the gold. Right? There's silver, there's copper, there is ground-rich nutrients that soil could probably grow an incredible crop, but you're so busy blasting through all this dirt looking for the gold nugget that you're not cultivating a good crop. And so the effective way to go and network is to change your mindset for why you're networking. And that is to grow strategic alliances that can help your business. So what you had mentioned it, right? You need a speaker, you need a presenter to come do this thing. Hey, Tyler, can you come up? You know, particularly in academia, we need somebody who can talk to our students about public speaking so that they give better presentations or capstone information. You know, like we need an expert who can come and do this. Can you come and do that? I go, yes, absolutely. And then I'm like, hey, I need to know more about Jamaica. I need a friend out on the island.
Yeah,
because that's how we're going to do it, right?
Right.
And what we need people in different ways. But if all I did was look at you as somebody, do you need public speaking? I can coach you on public speaking. Do you need public speaking? Here's my business card. Here's public speaking. And you're like, I don't need public speaking right now. I'm going to turn you away. And then you're not going to remember that I'm the guy who does public speaking.
Yeah.
But if I come into it looking for strategic alliances and I say, what do you do and how can I be of service? You may not need my service right now. And in fact, the statistic that I gave, 77% of Americans claim to have a fear of public speaking.
Yeah.
Of that statistic, public speaking has a 10% reduction on your earning potential. And if you're afraid of public speaking, it's also a 15% reduction on your ability to get a raise. And even after telling those stats, we've given 3 stats now, only 8% of people will actually seek help to speak better.
Right.
It means if I go into a room of 50 people in a typical networking event, only 4 of them are ideal clients for me right now, statistically speaking.
Yeah.
So why waste all my time talking to 50 people? And here's my card, here's what I do. Where I could ask those people, what do you do? And how can I be of service? And maybe they go, oh, well, you know, right now I'm having a hard time finding insurance for my business. Oh, well, I know this person who's an insurance broker. They've done really good things for me. I was shopping around for forever. Maybe I'll put you in touch. And then you come to somebody else and they're like, oh man, my safety program's busted. Oh, well, I know I have a firm that does safety consulting. Maybe you come and do this. And then you talk to somebody and they're like, I can't even stand coming to these things. You have no idea. I'm an introvert and I just can't stand public speaking. Oh, really? Tell me more about that. Right? Because now I'm right. The other way to network more effectively is instead of doing one-on-one like this, most networking opportunities give you the 30 seconds to tell what it is that you do.
Okay.
And most people waste that going, my name's Tyler Foley and I'm a public speaker. I train people on how to public speak. And no, stop doing that. Because again, that's me-centric, that's egocentric. What did we learn with the hero's journey? If we want to tell a captivating story, we got to put our audience in the driver's seat. They are the heroes. So instead of saying what I'm going to do and wasting my 30 seconds, because everybody's going to tune it out because they're more concerned about what they're going to do, I'm going to reverse the script and I'm going to say, who here hates coming to these things because they're terrified of social interaction and they're just afraid to do it? They're doing it because they've been told that they need to network and yet they don't know how to network effectively. Who here, the biggest struggle with networking is the fact that you're an introvert or you identify as an introvert or that you just have a general fear of speaking in public. Because I have 35 years of public speaking experience. From the time I was 6, I was on stage, and I have a patented method to get you over the fear of public speaking and tell more captivating stories. So if anybody here would like to know more about that, come meet me in the corner and come talk to me, and I will be happy to tell you more about what I do.
Okay.
By doing it that way, now the people who actually want to be your client, the people who went, Oh, yeah. No. What? The corner? I'll be there. They're going to come to you. Now you can talk. Now you know who your target audience is. Now you give out 4 business cards and say, okay, come and talk to me later. I want to know more about what you have to do. Tell me some of your struggle. What are you doing? You can have a little mini powwow, maybe even do a mini session. Like if you can give somebody real world advice or give them a breakthrough rate, then that's the time to do it. Give it away for free. They'll come back for more. Then you now have 46 or 45 other people in the room who you know are not going to be your ideal client. So now you're not having to pitch to them, and now you can honestly go to them and say, what do you do? How can I be of service? What do you need? And by being a service provider to them, by helping them solve their problem, by being a solution provider, your business may not have provided the solution, right? But you were the person who is instrumental in them finding the solution. And now you have gained network because everybody wants to return a favor.
Yeah.
Right. I would rather have done a favor for you now so that when I call on you, I can go, oh, I really need this help.
Yeah.
I've already helped you and you're more inclined to help me. And that's it. If you are of a service mentality, a service mindset, if you can give first instead of looking to receive, that's when you network more effectively, more powerfully, and that's how you get more business.
Cool. I hope that you guys on your favorite podcast platform listen to Tyler. I mean, those advice are very important. Those of you watching on your YouTube channel, what you're watching and listening, because it's important advice. Tyler, you have been saying it though, but I want to understand, how do I basically give a better, or do we basically give a better presentation overall? Just put a cap on it for me, right? Before, right.
Okay. We'll do it in 30 seconds. Ready? Embrace your story. Make your audience the hero. Ask them questions, and you will have the most engaging presentation of your life. Embrace your story. Make your audience the hero. Ask them questions. That's how you tell a captivating, powerful presentation.
Yeah, that sounds good, Tyler. I'm going into the next segment. It'll be a 25 minutes to 30 minutes thing. I want you then to talk about your business, right? In the next segment. So just wait on, we'll talk about your business. You're listening to Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast. I am Dr. Canute White. That was Tyler Foley. He will be talking about his business in this segment on Biz Exposed today. So let's go back to Tyler to get an understanding of what his business is about. Tyler, your business. What's the name of that business, please?
So Total Buy-In is the company that I started. Originally, it was a safety consulting company, and we would help people build safety programs and help them audit their safety programs. And then, because I do what I do as well as I do, we started doing a lot of safety training, and the training component of it became considerably more than what the audits and the safety development, the program development section was. And now, as we've matured, I now have a team that runs the safety side of Total Buy-In, and I'm actually very hands-off with it. I come in every once in a while. I might do an audit. I might do a training class every now and again. But as a part of Total Buy-In, Total Buy-In being the parent company, we now just have SeanTylerFoley.com and the Power to Speak Naked. And that is now the speaker training side of Total Buy-In. And Total Buy-In is a philosophy that if you as an owner of a company, as a president or a CEO, that in order to have engagement with your employees, to have a really good culture within your organization, everybody has to have buy-in with your vision. And the only way to get them to have buy-in with your vision is to clearly communicate it effectively through your policies, your procedures, and how you show up in your business. So total buy-in came about as exactly that. We want total buy-in into your system, including you. You need to understand why your business is what it is, why you believe in it, so that you can effectively communicate your vision to your employees, to your staff, and to your customers. We need total buy-in.
Okay. Why total buy-in? Where that, well, you told us where that come from, but why do you get into this really?
So it started as I didn't like where safety was. When I started as a safety professional, it was a lot of policy, it was a lot of procedure. It was, you do this thing because we said so. And most of the time, people don't know why they even have that policy. It usually was developed because some legislation somewhere said that they needed to do this thing, and then some big company came up with a procedure, and they said, you have to follow this, and then it became part of their safety system or their safety manual or their safety program, and now everybody has to do this thing, and they don't know why. Even the owner. The owner's like, no, it's a piece of paper, and we do it. And subsequently, the safety culture is broken, the corporate culture is broken, particularly when you have senior leadership who just don't know why. When they don't know why, the whole system breaks down. And so when I started doing my consulting, I looked at it and I went, that it's that famous law statement from the States, corporations are people too, right? And you should be able to use your money as free speech and all but I started thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? Corporations are unique entities. Right. Whether they're people is an entirely different debate, but they are definitely unique entities. They each have their own culture. They have their own values. They have their own just way of being, right? You could have two companies that do the exact same thing, right? Apple and Samsung. Apple and Samsung. They're doing the exact same thing. But if I say Apple, you have an instant idea of what the corporate culture is. If I say Samsung, you have an instant idea of what the corporate culture is. The two are not the same. They technically do the same thing, but they don't do it the same way. And so total buy-in was finding out. I decided to approach companies from a personal development standpoint. I've been in personal development for years and years and years and years and years. When I had my stroke, the first thing the Corbetts did was they got me hooked up with John DeMartini, and I went to the breakthrough experience. And I've been a big fan of Tony Robbins for years. And I volunteer with the Power of Success up here in Canada. I'll actually be down helping out with the Power of Success and Power of Influence down in Dallas and then Houston next month, or Dallas and West Palm Beach next month. Okay, cool. So I've been around personal development and for a long time, and I'm really I've embraced these principles. And I thought, what if we applied that to like companies? Right. Like, what if I did a value determination with the owner based on what is the company's values? What is the mission? Why are we doing it? And if I approach a company as a person and we do personal development, break it down, figure out what it is, go through the 4 agreements. Like, what do we have to do? Be impeccable with our words. So don't say, that's the other thing. A lot of these policies say things that they don't mean. And the first agreement, be impeccable with your word. Be impeccable with your word. I kept saying, if you have this written in this policy and you don't mean it, stop writing it. Yeah. Only write the stuff that you mean. If you can't do it, don't do it. And then when we started framing it that way, then that's when you started getting senior leadership on board. And then senior leadership was excited and they were engaged and they were able to get middle management on board. And then when middle management is engaged and on board, now the workers can. And again, who's the hero? Why are we putting all these things together? Yeah, the company needs to make money, but particularly around a safety system, we're not putting together a safety system because we have to. Ultimately, we're doing it to protect our workers. So who should have the most input into that? Yeah. The workers. It's that same engagement principle. Ask the people who are actually impacted by this. Make them the hero of that journey. So I would teach these owners to come in and ask your people, why is this important to you? What makes sense? How can we make it make sense? Because this is ultimately for your protection. I want you to be safe. I want you to be able to go home at the end of the day. And for them to be able to understand their why, so ownership's why, their value determination, so that they can then communicate it to their workers, so the workers really actually believe that they're doing it because they want them to be safe, not because it's a paperwork shuffle. And then you get the workers engaged and bought into the process. And that's why total buy-in came about, because
Yes.
it is a full engagement.
So we know that this whole thing about policy is really that document, yeah. But
Yeah.
the procedure comes from the policy. The procedure is how to do the policy.
Yeah.
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 So
exactly, 100%.
yeah.
I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't know, but my doctorate is in organizational leadership. I engage in organizational behaviorism. So I understand what you're saying. But my thing is that, or will your business, or will you help my organization hypothetically to reach its objective, to ensure that we accomplish what we want to do at the end of the week, of the season?
Well, so the first thing is to know what you want to accomplish, right? And for me, if somebody's coming to me on the total buy-in side, if it's a safety related thing, you either have a safety program or you need to develop a safety program. If you need to develop it, somebody's asked you, so I need to figure out why you think you need to have a safety system, and then actually you figure out why you need a safety system, because they're never the same.
Sure,
people they go, we've been told we need to do it for this reason. I go, okay, but why do you actually need to do it? Yeah. So then we again do that deep dive into the why. If it's about safety training, now you probably have a safety training and you have people who go into these safety training programs, but they're not being served by them because they're boring. And so you're bringing Tyler in to make the training more engaging, more effective, so that, again, ultimately your people are served so that it's safer. Or now you are the other side of the business, which is you want to be able to do that yourself, whether it's a safety presentation, whether it's a boardroom meeting, or whether you're an executive now and you want to start doing keynote presentations and sharing your knowledge with other people because you recognize that that's a quick way to expand your influence and therefore your business.
Okay.
Regardless of what window you're coming into me at, the very first thing I'm going to do is ask you why. Why are you doing this? Why is it important to you? Why do you think it's important to you? And then we do the deep dive. We do the McKenzie principle. We ask why until we can't ask why anymore, so that I actually understand why you really want to do this thing. What is the real driving factor? And then we start putting together a custom package so that I can either build a safety program for you, fix the safety program that you have, create a better, more engaging training presentation, or teach you how to give better, more engaging presentations. Whichever avenue I'm coming in at, it all starts with the why, customizing and tailoring a program to you so that at the end of it, you are getting your ultimate outcome. But I need to know your outcome and I need to know your why. And that is usually the first discovery meeting.
You're listening to Canute Exploration. I'm Dr. Canute White. You're on Biz Exposed today, and we're talking to Tyler about total buy-in, his company. Very interesting. Okay, Tyler, I went on your website. You know, I would do that, right? And I'm going to play a clip that I saw. You know, you have very, very good reviews. Let's listen.
Working with Sean Tyler Foley, or as we like to call him, STF, was an experience that I will not forget, because he did the one thing that any event organizer loves for their speaker to do, and that is to make their job easy. And he did just that. He would ramp up the crowd when I needed them ramped up. He would go and mingle with the crowd when I needed them to mingle. He even danced with our audience quite a few times, whatever was necessary. He does such a great job of being there, being present with them, and I'm really happy that I've hired him to speak at my events in the past, because as an event host, that is what you want from your speakers, is someone that's going to help you and make your job easier at the end of the day.
Tyler, dance with the audience. Talk to us about that. You're a vibes man, as we say in Jamaica, the vibes man.
Yeah, man. No, I absolutely, I mean, I can't ask somebody to do something I'm not willing to do myself. right? And a lot of times, particularly, so that event, that's Bailey Yates, and she runs an incredible event called Life by Design. And Life by Design is self-development, and we need people to get out of their comfort zones. We also need them to be fully engaged within their body and really be moving. So, you know, as a host, my job is to make sure that the energy in the room is appropriate for what we're about to learn or be presented with. And there was some times where we were going into some pretty heavy topics. So we need people's mood to be up here, because if it's here and we start hitting them with heavy topics, then this is a hard recovery, right? So we need them to be up here so that they can go on that journey and we can bring them back. And yeah, so I mean, if you need me to, I'll get out and dance. When I volunteer at Tony events or any of the events that I go and do, right? You've got to do it. You've got to move. You've got to sweat. If you're not sweating, you're not working. If you're not working, you're not serving. And the whole point is to serve. So you better be sweating. You got to be sweating or you ain't serving. And that's been my mentality and my philosophy for a long time. So when Bailey needs me to get up and dance, Tony needs me to get up and dance, Salim, Gail, whoever the organizer is, they need me to get up and dance. Well, I'm going to get up and dance. They need me to go and run and get this thing. I'm going to run and get that thing. They need me to take a mic and tell people the way it is. Well, give me the mic. I'm on.
I love that, Tyler. I love that. That's cool. Tell us about this, Tyler. This subscribe and gain access to 5 free videos. How to speak with confidence. Talk to us about that.
So I want people, again, to be able to do the best that they can when it comes to presentation. So anybody who goes to the Sean Tyler Foley website and subscribes to our mailing list, they have instant access to 5 free training videos on how to be better public speakers. So it's an augmentation to the method. So if they don't, right, not everybody learns the same way. It's one of the things that I've learned in training. Some people like to read. So we've got the method and they can download that and then they can read the 11-page booklet. Some people need to be visual. They need to have those videos. So they go on, they get on the mailing list and they get the videos. And I'll let everybody in on a secret. No matter which way you enter the funnel, you end up getting it all anyway. So go and pick the one that works best for you. And we're going to give you, I believe in giving all of my stuff away for free. Right. If you follow me on the podcast that I do, I don't hold anything back. I think it's a ridiculous thing to do. Yeah. The only thing that I charge for is access to me. So if you want to get on the free mailing list and get dripped the information over a period of a couple of years, you're going to learn everything that you're going to learn in my 5-day seminar. It's just, if you want to learn it rapidly and you want to learn it directly from me and work one-on-one with me, that's when you start paying the big bucks.
If you are watching, you will see across the screen contact numbers and so on. Would you like to repeat those to?
Yeah, anybody who wants to, you can go to SeanTylerFoley.com. It's the best way to get all of the contact information. So whether that is my email, whether that's my phone number, the office number, all of our contact information you can get just by going to SeanTylerFoley.com. It's going to be the easiest thing, and then you don't have to write down a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay, that's fine. Tyler, you have a very fascinating story. You know, I was very, I mean, I'm really impressed. This whole thing about being paralyzed from age 17 and your father's death, condolence, and the fact that you had gone through it. You told the story about missing your father at that function when you figure that he should have been sitting there beside Mummy. Right, and that's very interesting. It's important though that you have gotten over it through acting, as you have said, because acting is really a sort of a cushion for some of the challenges. And I believe that you're saying to the audience, hey, try acting, not professionally, but just let your hair down, as we would say. Talk to us about that a bit, before.
I think it's cathartic when you can take on somebody else's character or role. I mean, a lot of times, if anybody who has on your audience gone to a self-development thing, a lot of times, like particularly Tony Robbins, right? And when you're trying to get over a roadblock or get stuck, sometimes you have to take on a character of the person. Anytime I'm trying to get over it, I go, well, what is the negative that's coming out? And then you personify that and you're like, oh, you suck. You can never do the thing. Right. And you personify, you take on a different character so that you can see the ridiculousness of it. And I think we take ourselves too seriously as human beings. Life is fun. Life can be enjoyable. Even in the most direst of circumstances, you can still find the light and the grace and the joy in any circumstance.
Definitely.
And so for anybody who wants, I mean, there are a ton. Guaranteed there's some kind of regional or community theater in your neighborhood. They always, 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 always need people. So just get involved, be silly, get out and play. You know, nothing like being a grown up and putting on a costume and pretending to be somebody else for a couple of weeks. It's freeing and joyous.
Do you recommend that we watch cartoon as adults? I mean,
what adults don't? You mean adults don't watch cartoons? My favorite thing is I miss that there is actually Saturday when, you know, streaming has killed Saturday morning cartoons. I still have a ritual with my daughter because I love Saturday morning cartoons. So I will wake up with my daughter on Saturday morning. We get a big bowl of cereal. We sit down on the couch, and now we have to stream, but we stream the cartoons that she wants to watch, and I watch them with her. And then we watch the cartoons that Daddy used to watch. So she gets to watch Transformers and Ninja Turtles and everything. It just makes it fun. I love cartoons. Everybody should watch cartoons.
Yeah. I love cartoons, so I do watch it sometimes. You know, it's very entertaining. I'm a comedy person. You know, I do that. Right, Tyler. It's really nice having you on Canute Exploration. You're really a great guest, and I'm wishing you all the best. On behalf of Canute Exploration, it's my show, but Canute Exploration is a concept, right? So let's wish you all the best. And hoping that any books to come out, any plans for more writing?
So the book will be in bookstores the 7th of September, and pre-orders are available right now. So I would, if anybody wants, either go to barnesandnoble.com or better, go to your local bookstore, especially right now. Support your local community. Go to your local bookstore and ask them if you can pre-order a copy. Then they can get it to you, but they can get the revenue in now. Like they need the help now. Go to your local bookstore and pre-order a copy of it. And then the new revised edition, based on the feedback that I've been getting from everybody, we're going to have a thicker, better, more inclusive version that comes out in 2023. So look for the revised version in 2 years, but you can pre-order and get your copy September the 7th.
And that's a Power to Speak Naked.
Power to Speak Naked by Sean Tyler Foley.
Right, Sean. Right. How about this one? The method.
The method, just come to the website, SeanTylerFoley.com. Tell them Tyler sent you, and you can download the method for free. It's, again, 11 pages of solid advice, 5 insider secrets that I've put together over 35 years of public speaking. So hopefully it's a good and valuable tool to anybody who just needs that nudge, just needs to get a little bit better, more comfortable presenting material and information.
Hey, Tyler, you know, right? It's a network thing, so you know that we'll keep in touch, right? Thanks for coming, right? Thanks for being on Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast. I'm Dr. Canute White. We're sitting in with Tyler Foley. I am sitting in from Miramar, Florida. Yeah, and I'm hoping to meet you soon. Canada is open yet? Is it?
Just getting there. We're not officially, but enough that I can know that I'm going to be in West Palm Beach on July 16th. So anybody who wants to come play with me and Tony and Arnold Schwarzenegger, West Palm Beach on the 16th of July or in Dallas on the 15th of July, we'll be having a big party. Lots of people there. Phil Town's going to be there. Molly Bloom's going to be there. We're going to have a lot of fun, and I can't wait to get out of Canada, get that back down to the States.
West Palm Beach in Florida, right? Cool.
Yeah.
Palm Beach County, reaching out. Hey, Tyler, we'll talk. I'll definitely be in touch with you. Thanks for coming. All right, man. All right, take care. Bye-bye. That was Tyler Fowler. I almost said Tyler Perry. I know I got that laugh. He's outside after the studio laughing. All right, that was Tyler Foley. He is a very interesting person. I want you to go to his website, That's Sean. Let me say it here. That's T Foley total at totalbuying.com, right? You see it running across the screen if you're watching, and if you're listening, we have said it many times for you to hear it. He had a very interesting story. His father died, and he really missed his father at that function where Mummy was sitting, and he was saying, "Hey, Daddy should have been there," and that was a real peak of the distress with his father not being there, right? And he started acting from age 6. Very, very interesting person. So find him, go on his website, hire him to speak. He has been in this public speaking thing for years. And if you cannot find him, touch base with Can Youth Exploration. Find me, and I will give you his information so that you can have your passion be enhanced, your passion being honest for success if you are not good at public speaking. And he had said something very interesting. It's not fear of public speaking, but fear of judgment. Let's extend it, public judgment. So it's really something that we need to get rid of. And he had also mentioned that, well, alluded to the fact that sometimes what we are afraid of, our audience is not even thinking about that, but it is our perception of what the audience might be thinking about. And in most cases, as Tyler had said, the audience might be thinking about personal things, right? And I mean, not much looking at your failure as you speak, as you perform on stage, but their own personal challenges, that they are basically going through and will be going through. So be safe. Look, we're still in a pandemic. You heard that Canada, everywhere, having a challenge. So it's a pandemic. It's a worldwide thing. Remember to wear your mask, wash your hands, remember the social distance. I'm an advocate of vaccine. I'm not saying that you should take it. I'm not, forcing you to take it, but I'm encouraging you to take, to be vaccinated so that we can all get back. We're tired. We are tired. I want to go to Canada, right? And in fact, perhaps I can, as Tyler is saying, but there's some challenge everywhere. You have to go through all these restrictive measures and so on, and we are tired of that too. But we want to be able to move freely again. I recently traveled. It was very good. I mean, over a year and 6 months, I have not traveled, and to be traveling, that's an exciting thing for me, right? So take your vaccine, be vaccinated, please. I'm encouraging it. Guys, you don't know what we'll have on Can Youth Exploration to come, but we'll have another guest Sunday. Stay tuned and goodbye. Take care. Bye-bye.